Get a job in tech. Episode 114. I'm here with Mark Jefferson. Hey, Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Super good. So, tell everybody about what you do. I think you mentioned something about you're an author, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I've written two books, and they're fantasy novels, and they're called it's the Overseer series. The first one is called Servants of the Most High, and the second one's called Guardian of the Most High. There's actually a third book that's being written, but that one has actually grander in scope than the first two. So I don't know when that one's going to be done. That one's actually quite a bit more difficult to do because I have to really work out a lot of the magical rules and the way that things work. But so I started writing the first book, as a kind of a bucket list. I had actually started and stopped writing the book several times over the years. This book has been kind of in development stage for 10 or 12 years. But what happened was a friend of mine, Beth Dajans, she wrote a book, and it's called "Never Buy a Raccoon at a Gas Station." And it's a really good book. She's actually got a series out now called the Never series. But when she was a child, she had a very unique childhood in that her father collected animals, and I'm not talking normal animals. I'm talking about like rare birds and emus and alligators. And one of the pets she had was a raccoon. So she wrote stories about it. And the reason I'm explaining that is because through her, she actually encouraged me to write my book, because I'd mentioned that I was thought about writing a book and all that. So she actually she encouraged me, and she mentored me a little bit on how to go about doing it. So I actually wrote the book, and it started out as it was going to be one book. And as I was writing, it got longer and longer and longer. And one of my personal pet peeves is I don't like reading books that are more than, say, 500 pages because of the time investment. Because I've got a lot of other things on my plate. So I actually had when I planned the book out, I planned it out in three sections. Now, there are various types of authors, and I've heard it said that there are pantsers and planners. A pantser is somebody who writes by the seat of their pants. And then there's planners. And those are the people that plan out everything that happens. And I definitely fall into the planner section. So anyways, I planned out my book, and I had it set up in three sections. So I started writing and writing, and by the time I got to the first, when I finished the first section, it was already at about 300 pages. And so what I did was I went ahead and got to, well, I guess it wasn't quite at the halfway point of the book, but it's where some major things happened, and that's where I ended the first book. And then when I wrote the second book, there's a couple of character point of views that I added. They're characters that you're introduced to in the first book, but I added their point of view just because they were very, very important to the story. So it just really kind of follows this group of people and all the things that they have to deal with. And my wife is not a fantasy reader. She doesn't like fantasy, but she really, really liked these books because it deals a lot with relationships and how people interact, and just their needs and their desires, and just basically how people interact. So that's why she really, really liked it. So I will say that while I was writing it, I decided I wanted to write a book that I would like. One of my pet peeves, I have lots of pet peeves. One of my pet peeves is I cannot stand it when somebody just they don't have a logical conclusion to something that happens. As an example, let's say a character kills someone. In a lot of books, it's like no big deal, and they just kind of drop it. They never go back to it. And in the real world, that's not what happens. I mean, it messes you up. I've got several friends who are veterans of Afghanistan and all that, and they are messed up because of some of the things they had to do. So I decided I wanted to incorporate that. Another thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to have a very, very well-defined magic system. And so I don't know if you've ever read any of Brandon Sanderson's novels, but he has very, very well-defined magical system. So I wanted to have something of that ilk. Therefore, there would be logical extensions to what happens. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that happens in these novels is that you get to see the logical extension of what happens when you get too powerful with magic. So, like I said, it's just it deals a lot with the interactions with people. There's also the overarching story of the magic system and just the outgrowth of what happens and the consequences of what happens. So, hopefully that explains it.
Where can people? So you're on Amazon, right? I think you're on Amazon.
Yes, I'm on Amazon, and if you search for Overseer, Servants of the Most High, that's book number 1, and then there's a second one that's called Overseer, Guardian of the Most High. If you search for those, you'll find them. They'll be real high up on the search list.
What does the?
So they're on sale right now for 99 cents.
What does the book look like when you see it?
So the first cover, it's got kind of an orangey tinge, but the first cover is this what looks like a monk, a bald-headed monk, sitting in front of like a crystal hill or a crystal mountain, and that has a lot of significance in the book. And the second one has a woman that's carrying like a pot. And she's kind of it's the same color scheme. She's kind of carrying a spot. It's like from a rear view, and she's standing in front of the mountain. So both of those covers are significant. Once you read the books, you'll understand them.
Wow, that's nice. That's really nice. That's amazing. I'll link after the show. Just I'll link up the show notes, the URLs of these two books, so the listeners can go to them, and then they can have an idea of what.
Okay.
Do you sell? Do you do any book signings? Are you any book signings yet? Have you ever?
I've been to a couple of book signings, and to be honest with you, maybe it's just because I did them over on the Illinois side. I live near St. Louis, but I live on the Illinois side, and they weren't that well attended, and I didn't sell many books that way. So I do. They are available in print, and the print edition is available for $12.99. Because believe it or not, I don't make much money on the print books because they're just so expensive to produce. But the Kindle versions are on sale for 99 cents right now, so I think it's a good deal. And there's also, I've had a lot of questions from people that have read the books about the magic system and how it works and everything. So what I did was I actually published the third book, and it's a short book, but it's only about 40 or 50 pages. But it details all of the notes that I wrote while I was constructing this world, how magic works, how the naming system works, how society works, what the servants are, all these things. So that way it kind of sheds a lot of light. And I actually got the idea from Brandon Sanderson. He has what he calls the Arcanum, which details the magical system of whichever book that he's writing that you're reading about. So
that's nice. So let me ask you: do you have like a Twitter or social media? How can people find you on the social media?
So I really don't do social media, and the reason for that is because, especially in today's climate, it doesn't matter what you say or what you don't say. You're going to offend somebody. And, I have enough issues in my life. I really don't need to deal with somebody who got offended by something I said. So I really don't. I do have a Facebook page, but it's just a private page.
Well, I'll be sure to link it up on the website, GaryMcNeelyIT.com. I'll be sure to do that so that other people can go and buy your book on Amazon.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, Mark, anything else you want to talk about before we say goodbye to the listener?
No, I will say that from the standpoint of the book, it's a completely original story. It starts out that there's something that happens in the 7th chapter which puts everything on its ear. Everything goes sideways, and it completely changes the nature of the story. Up until that point, it's kind of your standard fair fantasy thing. But I would just encourage, once I've heard this from everybody that I've talked to that have read the book, has said the same thing. Once they get to chapter 7, they cannot put it down. So hopefully that'll be you.
Okay, yeah, I look forward to it, Mark. So thanks for coming on the podcast, and have a great day.